My name is Margaret Collins. I am 61 years old. And 3 months ago, my daughter-in-law gave my bedroom to her sister. Not a guest room. Not a spare room. My bedroom. The one where I had slept for 11 years. The one with the blue curtains I had chosen myself. The one where I had kept my late husband's photograph on the nightstand since the day he passed. She did it while I was visiting my sister in another city. She moved my belongings into a small storage room at the end of the hallway. She placed her sister's luggage in my room before I returned. When I walked through the front door with my suitcase, her sister was already sleeping in my bed. My daughter-in-law, Sophia, smiled and said the words I will never forget. We needed the larger room for Jessica. Your things are all safely stored. You'll be comfortable in the back room. I looked at my son, Ryan. He looked at the floor. That was the moment I understood something I had been refusing to see for 2 years. My son had married a woman who had been quietly, patiently, steadily pushing me toward the exit of my own home. And my son had been holding the door open for her. I need you to understand something before I continue. The house we are talking about is not Ryan's house. It is not Sophia's house. It was never their house. The house on Elmwood Lane was purchased by my husband, Gerald, and me 31 years ago. We raised Ryan there. We celebrated every birthday, every Christmas, every ordinary Tuesday in that house. When Gerald passed away 8 years ago, the house remained in my name. Only my name. Ryan had moved out years before he married Sophia. When they married, they lived in a rented apartment across town. 2 years ago, their lease ended unexpectedly. Ryan called me and asked if they could stay with me temporarily while they searched for a new place. I said yes immediately, because that is what mothers do. I gave them the large guest room. I cooked dinner 3 times a week. I stayed out of their way. I tried to make them feel welcome without making them feel crowded. The temporary stay became 1 month, then 3 months, then 6. Then Sophia began rearranging my kitchen. Then she replaced my curtains in the living room without asking. Then she started referring to the house as our home when she spoke to her friends on the phone. I said nothing, because Ryan was happy, and I wanted Ryan to be happy more than I wanted to correct his wife. That was my mistake. The changes happened slowly enough that I almost didn't notice how much had shifted. My name disappeared from the mailbox. Sophia had replaced the nameplate with one that read, The Collins Family. My garden chair was moved to the garage because Sophia said it made the front porch look cluttered. My weekly phone calls with my sister were moved to the back bedroom because Sophia said the sound carried through the house. One morning I came downstairs to find my favorite coffee mug gone. Sophia said it had broken accidentally. I found it intact at the back of a cabinet 2 weeks later. Each of these things was small enough to dismiss. Together they formed a picture I did not want to believe. I was being managed, slowly, carefully, by a woman who had decided that the most efficient way to take over a house was to make the owner feel like an inconvenience. Then came the day I went to visit my sister. I was gone for 4 days. I called Ryan on the 2nd day. He said everything was fine. I called again on the 3rd. He said Sophia was reorganizing some rooms, but not to worry. I came home on the 4th day to find Jessica, Sophia's younger sister, standing in my kitchen making breakfast. Jessica smiled politely. Sophia said you wouldn't mind. I walked down the hallway to my bedroom. The door was open. Jessica's suitcases were stacked against my wall. My blue curtains had been replaced with white ones. My husband's photograph was no longer on the nightstand. I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom for a very long time. Then I went to find Ryan. Ryan was in the kitchen. He did not look surprised to see me standing there with my suitcase still in my hand. That told me everything. He had known. Mom, he began. I raised my hand. Where is Gerald's photograph? He looked at Sophia, who had appeared silently in the doorway. She spoke before he could. I put it safely in a box with your other things. Your other things, said in my own home, about my husband's photograph. I sat down at the kitchen table. I asked Ryan to sit down too. Sophia remained standing in the doorway. I looked at her calmly. Could you give us a few minutes, please? She looked at Ryan. He nodded. She left. I looked at my son, the son I had raised alone after Gerald died. The son I had worked 2 jobs for. The son I had given this house to stay in because he needed help. Ryan, I said quietly, do you know whose name is on the deed to this house? He shifted in his chair. Mom, whose name, Ryan? He was quiet for a moment. Yours, Yes, only mine. He looked at the table. I know. Then I need you to understand something. I said it without anger, without tears. No one gives away a room in my house without asking me. No one moves my belongings without my permission. And no one replaces my husband's photograph while I am away. Ryan nodded slowly. I should have stopped it. Yes, you should have. That afternoon I drove to see my lawyer. I had not needed to think about legal matters for years, but I had always kept my documents organized. The property deed, the utility records, the insurance, everything in a green folder in my desk drawer. My lawyer listened to everything. Then he asked me one question. Margaret, what outcome do you want? I thought about it carefully. I want my home back. Not as a battleground. As a home. He nodded. Then we start with a formal notice. Nothing aggressive. Simply a document that reminds everyone involved of the legal ownership of the property and the rights that come with it. I signed the paperwork that afternoon. The notice arrived 3 days later. I was sitting in the back room when I heard Sophia open the front door for the delivery. I heard the sound of an envelope being opened. Then silence. Then Sophia's voice calling for Ryan. I stayed where I was. I heard them talking in low voices for several minutes. Then Ryan knocked on my door. I told him to come in. He stood in the doorway holding the document. Mom? I already spoke to my lawyer. He looked at me for a long moment. I didn't know she was going to do any of this. I know you didn't plan it, Ryan. But you watched it happen. He sat down on the edge of the small bed. He looked like the 11-year-old boy who used to sit on the edge of my bed when he had a bad dream. What do you want us to do? I answered simply. I want Jessica to find somewhere else to stay within 2 weeks. I want my bedroom back. I want Gerald's photograph back on the nightstand where it belongs. And I want us to have an honest conversation about what living together actually means. Ryan nodded slowly. Okay, Mom. Jessica moved out 12 days later. She did not say goodbye to me directly. She said goodbye to Sophia in the driveway while I watched from the front window. I did not feel satisfaction exactly. I felt something quieter than that, something closer to relief. My bedroom was returned to me the following weekend. Ryan cleaned it himself. He rehung my blue curtains. He placed Gerald's photograph back on the nightstand exactly where it had always been. He stood in the doorway afterward and said nothing for a moment. Then he said, I'm sorry, Mom. I told him I accepted his apology. But I also told him something he needed to hear. Ryan, I love you. I loved you before you were born. I will love you when I am gone. But love does not mean silence. And family does not mean giving people whatever they want until there is nothing left of yourself. He looked at me. She told me you were difficult. She told me you made everything about control. I nodded. I know she did. And I understand why you believed her. Because she was your wife and I was just your mother. But Ryan, difficult is a word people use when they want something from you and you won't give it. I was never difficult. I was simply not convenient. He did not argue.